Farmers who feed the world, right here in this room. Thank you so much. I want to thank Farm Bureau and our hosts, Paul and Kelly, and the Schuler family for this wonderful gathering. The Schuler family has set the bar high, and they are the epitome of sound, good agricultural practice. I like to say they set the model for the Illinois farmer. Thank you to the Schulers. And thank you to you all. I am a coach, a teacher, a businesswoman, a lawyer, a wife, a mother, and a grandma. And I'm seriously concerned with the direction of this country. And I'm happy to be before you today to tell you a little bit about myself and what my plans are for the United States Senate on our behalf. Because we all love this land that we love and call Illinois, and I'm dedicated to it. I raised my family here in Lake County. I'm the first of 9 kids raised in Waukegan, Illinois, and I'll be put to rest here. And you could expect from me that my principal address will be here in Illinois. I will be a working senator, a citizen senator. And I'll tell you, I've given many of you here my personal cell phone. And when I get that bill at 11 o'clock at night and it's got anything that deals with the Illinois agribusiness in it, or I expect to be able to call some of you and say, hey, what the heck is this all about? Because I don't think it's good politics and good policy when our Congress people get 770-page bill and a few hours to read it and then debate it and vote on it. I just think that there's something a little off about that. And I plan to make a difference out there. The farmer is the best conservator of their land. My goal is to become a go-to person in the Senate on behalf of agribusiness. I will work tirelessly, efficiently, and effectively to represent agriculture. Next year, we face the Farm Bill. We're down from 5 representatives in Illinois to 2. Right now, neither senator sits on the Ag Committee. I will work to be our voice. If Democrat policies are implemented, they will devastate family farmers in Illinois. First, I want to compliment Farm Bureau and President Giebert for sending the action request urging a no vote on the climate change bill, also known as the Inflation Reduction Act. It is projected to have a negative effect on small business and workers and families in Illinois. For one thing, there is absolutely no accountability in the bill. Senator Tammy Duckworth supported the Inflation Reduction Act. This bill, among other things, calls for 87,000 IRS agents, and this will principally come after small business. 25% of the new taxes expected in this bill will come from those earning $75,000 or less. 50% of the new taxes from this bill will come from those earning between $75,000 and $200,000 a year. This hits the middle income family and many 2-income families. It is a tax on productivity, a tax on people who work, a tax on the middle-class family, and a tax on small business. I would have voted no had this bill come before me. I would have been the 51st vote in the U.S. Senate opposing this bill. Tammy Duckworth supports Prop 12. She supports the production practices of pork in California. I do not support a patchwork quilt of regulations such as Prop 12. Unlike my opponent, I support what we're doing here in Illinois because it works under the Livestock Management Act. And now I'd like to talk about input costs, something that you know a lot more than I, but I have learned from my travels throughout the state of Illinois. These costs have a dramatic impact on your bottom line. This season, it will cost $1,100 per ton for anhydrous ammonia, whereas only 2 years ago, it was $400 per ton. This is nearly 3 times higher. And look at seed corn and seed bean, nearly 20 to 30% higher costs that we're facing. These higher costs have not even found their way to market. To correct this, as U.S. Senator, I will push for a comprehensive, all of the above, energy policy. A comprehensive energy policy will drive our economy, and this is sorely needed. We should not only strengthen our domestic oil, clean coal, natural gas, and expand our nuclear energy possibility, but also, and very important to Illinois industry, develop biodiesel and ethanol that will grow Illinois. And I would suggest to you, if the leadership, the single party leadership that we've had in Illinois, 26 years under Senator Durbin and 6 years under Duckworth, was working for us, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today. Simply put. And I would challenge you, in 6 years, when we hold another roundtable and I'm your elected senator, I want you to say, oh my God, we got to get that woman in office again. Because I have to tell you, the issues we face as a state aren't Republican issues, Democrat issues. Every person of goodwill is suffering. And I would suggest it's because of leftist policies out of Washington that are driving this agenda. And we're feeling it. Every family is feeling it, whether they come from the south side of Cook or down in Alexander County or my neighbors. What propelled me into this race is I know that I want to be the voice for working people and families in the state. And I'm going to ask for your vote, each one of you here today. And if there's something I'd like to share this, somebody who's your 80% friend is not your 20% enemy. So work with me and alongside of me. And I'm going to give you every bit of energy I can in my role as our next U.S. Senator. Insofar as developing biodiesel and ethanol, this is what we grow in in Illinois, and we're in the Corn Belt. But look at what prices do. We need to have policies that are embraced that won't change administration to administration. And I think the balance I could bring to the U.S. Senate will help moderate the leftist policies that are there. Another thing that concerns me is the Environmental Justice Bank, supported by my opponent. This is huge. We might get to this a little further, but just look at what's happening to the farms in the Netherlands. The fact that 1/3 of the farmers there are being squeezed out of the practice that they've had for generations. And this is anticipated in Canada. I suggest that this is a danger for us in the future. Moreover, the Inflation Reduction Act also puts a 14.5% tax on imported oil. Because on day one of the Biden administration, which, by the way, Tammy Duckworth has voted nearly 100% of the time with that agenda, they have been at war with fossil fuels. On account of this, we have to rely for our oil, which we were independent domestically, now from foreign countries, where the president is begging Iran for oil. And where are we looking for oil? Rogue nations such as Russia, Venezuela, Iraq, and Iran. This is not only just bad policy for Illinois, it's bad for America, and it really hurts us with our national security. My opponent has been silent, like crickets, on this, and this is a very big problem. We haven't even seen those 14.5% taxes on imported oil coming into our market. Imagine prices where they are, where they may go. I support fair trade policies abroad. Overall, there is a void of leadership for agribusiness in Illinois. We are the breadbasket of the world, but many people just don't get it. 1 year ago, a clean energy bill was passed in Illinois. At that time, we were a 40% exporter of our Illinois energy. Since that time, we have closed 2 coal-burning plants, and we have ratcheted back 2 of our nuclear plants. We're now a 40% energy import state. Illinois farms depend upon energy, especially at production time. Electricity is a non-negotiable. It's an imperative, and rolling blackouts are unacceptable to successful farming practice. If I could speak to a minute to the death tax, the inheritance tax. We need to keep exempt on levels where they are now, and in 2 years they're expected to be cut in half. Farm life, like the Schulers, should be passed along to your children. Where are you, Paul? There you are. And many of us. And yet I spoke to a fellow who farms in Clinton County last week, and he said all of his livelihood is in his farm, and it's in his equipment that he can't even find the parts to today, but he takes such care of it. And he said, here, I'm a simple man. He said, I have to have an accountant, a lawyer, and a financial advisor to help me weave through how I can best pass along this legacy to my family, to my children. By implementing policies that not only keep the current exemption in place, but also index them for inflation. This is what we need. This is what I will fight for. Moreover, we need to get the Illinois inheritance taxes to come along with the rest of our states around us. We're behind the 8 ball. Most farmers get health care a variety of ways. Some rely on the Obamacare through the Affordable Care Act or other group insurance plans. And yet we have seen the cost of health care rise. I am opposed to single-payer system of health care that removes competition, raises the cost of health care, and pits a government bureaucrat between the doctor and his or her patient. This has been a disaster wherever it has been applied, and I oppose it. In closing, I would like to be your working senator. I mentioned a citizen senator. I will work tirelessly, efficiently, and effectively to represent agriculture. And I'd like to leave you with this thought. Why accept crumbs off the table when you could have a 4-course meal with Salvi? I will be forming an ag council, ag committee, and I have a press release that I will be sending out next week. It's in development, but I expect many of you here to be advising me in the next 6 years, because I want to be able to honor you and honor our wonderful agriculture here in Illinois. So thank you for guiding me, and thank you so much for the attention you've given me this morning. I'll take questions.
As I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, please fill out the note cards and pass them to the end, and some staff member from one of the commodity groups will put them together.
Kathy, you talked earlier about liquid fuels, biofuels, ethanol. There's a lot of nervousness in the room about the future of liquid fuels. How will you, can you give a little bit more detail? How do you continue to work to carve out a place for them in the future?
Thank you. Well, you know, I've never held elective office yet, but everything I have done, I believe in this theory. If you get good information in, you're going to get better results out. So how many times have we gone to school and maybe a teacher has taught us how to run a business, and then you really get into the guts of the business, you're like, nothing I read in a book really worked. So where will I go for my advice on where we know and what? We have to have a broad, big picture, a big picture approach to our biodiesel and our biofuels and our renewables. We need to look at what we're doing now in order to prepare for the future. And I think that in too many areas, whether it be, there are too many quick fixes, and too many elected officials will go for a quick fix. One thing that I know is that in all of my adult life, I don't want to own to my 63 years, but I've learned a lot. I have worked hard for candidates who sounded really good, and I liked everything that they stood for. And then something happened once they got elected. They lose their backbone, and they stop listening to the people. So to the biofuels, the liquid fuels, who am I going to listen to? You gentlemen in the green shirts, ladies in the green shirts. Are you kidding? You're the ones who know best what the policies for the future are. And this is the first generation of people who do not believe our children and our grandchildren's future will be as good as it is today. So I'm willing to make some tough choices, but I know this: I won't be doing them without you backing me and behind me. And like I mentioned to Paul over there, I said, I want to make sure when I get that bill at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, like the Inflation Reduction Act, in 770 pages, which I read, especially the IRS section. I thought I had to read that really well. I don't know how, in God's name, you could review that bill and expect it to be good for Illinois or good for America with only 2 or 3 hours to debate and to read it. So I'm going to be burning up your phone lines if you give them to me, in order to that we could see that we prepare the right soil for tomorrow's harvest. And that is good legislation and good policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. While we're on ethanol, let's shift just a bit to biodiesel. The federal $1 per gallon blender's credit for biodiesel is extended for 2 years, but transitions away. And it puts the biodiesel industry at risk. Do you support a long-term extension of the blender's credits?
I support a free market that allows our product to be exported and developed, and will be taking your advice on that. And if that's exactly what your lobby tells me to vote on, I will be your voice in Illinois for that legislation. I will also like to be a little proactive. We should not be playing defense on our Illinois ag policy. We need to have a more, like I said, there's only 2 representatives going to be in Congress, and neither of our senators sits on the ag committee. I think that we need to have a little stronger voice in Washington, so we don't just play catch up, but we could be a little proactive in what will help serve Illinois agriculture. Is that a sufficient answer?
Thank you very much. Shifting gears just a bit. I've been in State Farm Bureau leadership for a little over 18 years, and many of us here in this room have worked, prior to that, when I was a county president, worked on improvements of our lock and dam systems around the state. And back in what year, Marty? In the late 2000s, we worked in the St. Louis area with the Corps of Engineers, with the Carpenters Union, the trades unions, all across the Metro East area in particular, to get some dollars, federal dollars, for improvements of the locks and dams, 1,200-foot locks, not only to help agriculture move the crops that we grow down the river, but bring fuel and commodities up and to improve commerce. What role and how can you build off of, if elected senator, off of getting more federal dollars for new 1,200-foot locks and dams on the upper Mississippi and Illinois rivers?
Well, I recently learned that an $800 million bill that came through during the Obama years didn't go to the purpose that it was intended. Instead, it was divvied up by different congressional districts so that they could spend it in the way that they felt fit. And I felt that that's a deficient voice for agriculture. So what can I say? I want to be your senator on agriculture. Is that good enough? And if I make that my priority, or if your senator makes that their priority, things will get done. And 90-year locks and dams just doesn't seem like a good idea to get our goods both in and downriver. I believe that Senator Grassley has been very effective in getting 2 of the locks and dams on the Iowa side of the river rehauled, and I would like to see that same effort being put toward our effort here. Jerry Niemeyer, are you here in the crowd? He's going to be advising me on that. I've already gotten a good earful from him, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator, or Kathy.
I like the sound of that, that's all right.
Shifting gears one more time, trade is really important to us, and the commodities that we grow, whether it's livestock, corn, soybeans, etc. trade is, as I said, really important to us. Infrastructure to get our commodities down the river or up and wherever it's needed to fill the export market. China is a big importer of soybeans in particular, DDGs, and a lot of other goods. How will you position yourself, or what will you do to improve trade talks, to keep commodities moving, and to have trade agreements with other countries, particularly that they fulfill the commitments that they've signed in different trade agreements?
Excellent question. Do you ever hear that saying, a squeaky wheel gets the oil? Well, let me be your squeaky wheel. I'll tell you a little bit of a story. First of all, on to tariffs. I believe that the import tariffs on fertilizers such as potash and phosphorus should be removed. But let me tell you a little bit something that happened in the prior administration. I have a daughter who worked in the West Wing, and Dwayne Anderson out in Henry County had my cell, and he would, text me, Kathy, this is a disaster. You've got to get this to the president. And what did I do? I simply took his text, I copied it over, gave it to my daughter, and she said, it's in the Oval right now. And so how is that for direct access? What we need to have is a working senator, somebody who's got their ear to the ground of what's really going on, how our farms are being overregulated, our business are being stranglehold. I'm a less government, low tax, common sense conservative. It's like in my sinews. And by the way, I share with people this. Watch how I'm running my campaign. It's a very lean operation. Because if I'm going to be fiscally conservative, I better show it. And that's how I've run my business. But I want to do that on behalf of all of us here. Because there's nobody who has a more vested interest in the soil and the beauty of Illinois than all of you sitting in here. So what do I expect to do if we have a troublesome congressional delegation, maybe in Illinois or another state? Like I told Adam, remember I said, I'll get coffee and bagels and I'll meet them at their congressional door before they even open up. And we'll sit down and we'll develop relationship. I won't matter whether they're on the other side of the aisle, because what we are all starving for is somebody who's not a divider, somebody who stands up to principle, but is able to look at all sides of an issue and do what's best for the people of Illinois. I'm not a blame thrower. I'll be accountable to you. And I would hope after election that you'll maybe renominate me, but at least give me a chance to serve now. Because you know what you've had. We know what we've had for 6 years. We know we've had a single voice in the U.S. Senate. So I suggest let's bring some balance back to Washington, D.C., and let me lead on our behalf.
Thank you, Kathy. Shifting gears again, got two questions here. Is what can you do, or what would you do to lessen the impact of over-regulations, particularly when it comes to U.S. EPA, Waters of the U.S., IRS, you just mentioned briefly. Could you expand on that question, please?
Yes. I think as to the waters of the USA, I think we've got a case coming before the Supreme Court to expand the definition of what is a water. And as I was at a group of farmers in Robinson, Illinois, Crawford County, they're like, it's just insanity. It was a very rainy day, and there were large, water that hadn't run off. I said, to expand the definition of a field that can be EPA regulated to that particular farm parcel, it puts a vice over that farmer's ability to run their business. And so I think that I'm hopeful that we'll have a favorable decision on the waters of the U.S. But I think that, I asked a fellow in Iroquois County, I said, I looked at the book he showed me of the USDA, and I'm like, holy cow, you've got to have an advanced degree to keep up with that. How do you do it? And he says, I just go over to the clerk at the county office. They tell me what I need to do. I fill it out, and that's it. So I'll tell you, we're over-regulated in a lot of our business. And I think the frightening thing for me and most Americans, most Illinoisans, is 87,000 new armed IRS officials. Are you kidding? I think that that's insanity. And I think that let us just live. Let us just run our families and our homes without the top-down big brother telling us how to do it. And I will apply every single bit of my effort to make that happen in the United States Senate.
Thank you, Kathy. Shifting once again, we're in the conversation, all the commodity groups, as we prepare for the upcoming Farm Bill. We've all had listening sessions. We kind of have an idea of what's important to our members, particularly crop insurance if you're a grain producer, livestock indemnity programs if you're a livestock producer, et cetera, et cetera. What role do you plan to play in writing a farm bill? And a second question too, I guess I should reverse these questions. What committees, if you're elected, do you desire to seek a seat at? And then if one of them is agriculture, then what role would you play in the upcoming new farm bill?
Well, I'm told that the way things work, you don't necessarily get the committee that you ask for, but I suppose if you lobby whomever the speaker is that gives Salvi Ag, it'll be a better chance that I get it, right? I can't be the voice for you without listening to you and the concerns. And you all here run the farms, you feed America, you send our product overseas, and I know that I'll take my advice from you.
Thank you. Following regarding the Farm Bill, what are your thoughts of continued funding for FMD, foot and mouth disease vaccine bank, and in order to protect the livestock and our other commodities partners? We need to protect our herds from disease. A disease outbreak in the United States would be devastating, just like what we saw in China a couple years ago with swine influenza.
So let me see a show of hands. Who here has the answer to that question? I don't see any hands. Oh, there she is. Matt, we're going to talk to that gal afterwards, and you're going to help guide me and advise me on that. Okay, girlfriend? Okay, good. Listen, if I came to you saying I have all the answers to all the questions, I would be a fool, right? You know, but I'm here to defer to you, and thank you so much. If you ask that question, I'm happy to learn more about it. Thank you.
I'd be disappointed if Jennifer didn't ask that question. Thank you, Jennifer. Shifting again, going back to renewable fuels and renewable energy standards. In your role as a senator and hopefully ag senator, the push for renewable energy standards, i.e. wind and solar, with production at any of the need to feed and clothe the fuel the world population. What position would you take in a renewable energy standards as they're set by Congress or the U.S. Senate?
Well, I'm a big fan of developing our renewables. And as to wind farms and wind turbines and solars, I believe we need to act responsibly to protect some of our best farmland here in Illinois. Take, for example, the 25-year period with one wind turbine. It may turn a profit of about $250,000. It has a life, I'm told, of about 25 years, and it takes about $250,000 to disassemble one aged, obsolete wind turbine. This is a net zero gain. So based upon the productivity of the land, long-term it doesn't make sense. And many times I've learned that absentee landlords are the ones to submit. What I believe we need is what we incentivize in our federal government will drive our economy, and we need some common sense. It's sorely needed. I hope to bring common sense leadership to the United States Senate so that we can make sure that our best farmland here in Illinois is preserved for its purpose.
Thank you, Kathy. And the last question I have is, you talked a bit about the estate tax and death tax and things like that. The question here is really simple. Are you for eliminating the death tax altogether? Yes or no?
Yes.
Very good. Closing comments, Kathy.
I would love each one of you to leave here today and take on an active role in Kathy Salvi for U.S. Senate. We need 2.2 million votes in November 8th, and I have been told everywhere I go throughout the state, Kathy, you've got to meet more people. You've got to get your message known. But I have to say this, if I look at my life as a regular voter, and 5 months ago, before I got on a ballot, I always say you have to watch somebody who's just before an election, because too many times we've been made promises, and then the promises are not kept or fulfilled. But what's important is the people who are behind us, the people who are behind it. And I am going to look to you to keep me accountable and transparent. So if each one of you can see the energy and the vigor that I have to serve, that's what I'd like you to leave here today. And I would ask you for your vote. And I would ask you wherever you go, in the circles of people who trust you and know you, say, let's give that woman a chance. She's going to lead Illinois as best she can. And I'm going to give every single bit of my muster to do it. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you to Farm Bureau. Thank you to the Schuler family. And by the way, my son Joe and daughter-in-law Mackenzie went to school with Mackenzie Schuler. Where are you, Mackenzie? There you are. Okay. So I bet you in this room here, we're probably 6 degrees of separation to one another, because you never know. I am going to lead as I have lived. And my son Albert, I don't know if he's here in the crowd today, sometimes I say, don't even listen to what I say and promise. Look at my kids. I've tried to do my best for them, my husband and I of 34 years. And he's solidly behind this. So you're going to get my best energy and my commitment to serve in the U.S. Senate. And I tell you, I think that they need a dose of good common sense leadership with a good positive attitude too, which will make sense for all of us here in Illinois and hopefully in America. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy Salvi, for coming to the Ag Legislative Roundtable here today, being a part of the conversation, informing all the folks here today of your intentions and going forward. Wish you the best going forward. Let's show our appreciation one more time for Kathy Salvi. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.